Today we are learning about adding and subtracting polynomials. I have my notes set up in a way that will easily organize our steps. Our steps are pre-written out and I have a title at the top. Feel free to organize yours differently. This is just how I think is easier to look at. So in going over these steps, I always like to look at an example. So I'm going to write our example out now. Our example, so I'm going to write EX for example, is our first polynomial is 6x cubed plus 12x squared minus 15x. We're adding that to 4x squared minus 12x plus 8. So the first thing that I like to do is get rid of our subtraction. So what can we do? What's the opposite of subtraction? Addition. And so for those who maybe haven't heard what I'm about to say before, I'm going to write a note on the side. So we're going to add a line and change a sign, right? So what that means is anytime I see subtraction, so I see subtraction right there for minus 15x, I'm going to add a line and change the sign. So instead of subtracting 15x, we're adding negative 15x. And I'll be able to do that right here too. So I'll add a line, change a sign. What that does for me is it lets me look at it all in addition instead of worrying about that subtraction. It helps me not to be dropping any negative signs. So normally I would leave it just right there, but in case you haven't heard of this before, let me rewrite that how it would be now. So we have 6x cubed plus 12x squared plus negative 15x, all added to 4x squared plus negative 12x plus 8. All right, so there is our addition problem. Our first step is to rewrite, and you're probably asking me, didn't we already just do that? Sort of. So like I had said before, I don't usually do that rewrite step. I just did in case you are not used to that add a line, change a sign. If that's a new concept, I really wanted to make sure you saw what I was doing. All right, so we're taking this and we're rewriting it without the parentheses. So first thing we have to do is find out what sign's in front of our parentheses. So we know for our second polynomial, there's a plus sign, but there's nothing out here in front of our first polynomial, so what can we assume? We can assume a positive sign. So if I have a positive sign, that means I can just drop the parentheses and keep everything with the signs they already have. So I'm going to rewrite that as 6x cubed plus 12x squared plus negative 15x plus 4x squared plus negative 12x plus 8. All right, so now my next step is to identify and group like terms. So when I'm identifying like terms, I can use different colors or I can use different shapes of lines. So like let's say x cubed, x squared, x, right? To make sure that we can see it, I'm actually going to use different colors. So x cubed, do we have any more like terms? No, that's the only x cubed we have. So that's the only one we'll underline there. So our next term is 12x squared. So we're looking for anything that also has an x squared. So negative 15x is not a like term. We come, 4x squared is. Negative 12x is not, and 8 is not. All right, so time for a new color. Our next term is negative 15x. And we have two more to compare. So we have negative 12x, that's definitely a like term, right? Because we have x to the first power and x to the first power. And 8 is a constant, that is not a like term. So that's a term on its own. All right, so we identified our like terms and now we need to group them. So we're bringing up our associative property of addition, which means that no matter which order we move these, it'll still be the same, right? So we're going to group them together so that later we can combine them. So 6x cubed is by itself. There's no like term. So we are going to just bring that down. And I like to, because I'm a visual person, I like to cross it off if I've used it. So now we're going to bring down our next term, 12x squared. And we know that it matches our 4x squared in like terms. So we'll bring our 4x squared down as well. So I'm going to cross both of those out because we used them. So our next one is negative 15x. And we know that that goes with negative 12x. Perfect. And lastly, we have our constant, which we will bring down. Right? So we've identified and grouped our like terms. So finally, we're combining our like terms. So we know 6x cubed is by itself. Here's our like term. We know 12 plus 4 is 16. And we know negative 15 plus negative 12, negative 27. Okay? And so we can write our final answer, 6x cubed plus 16x squared plus negative 27x plus 8. And as you know, or maybe you don't, but so we'll review, you can always put that back into subtraction. You don't need to. It's right. You can put plus negative, but you could also write that as 6x cubed plus 16x squared minus 27x plus 8. So it's like the opposite of adding a line, changing a sign. So we're going to like take the sign away and make that a minus, and then we'll change the sign. That is like really important in case you're looking at a multiple choice test, such as maybe your state standards, and you have a plus a negative 27x, but they'll have that minus 27x, and it's important to know that those are the same things.